Welcome to English Vertex Podcast.
Improve your vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation with our engaging lessons.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the English Vertex Podcast. I'm so happy you're here with us today.
Hey there! Great to see you all again. You know, I was talking to a student last week who said something that really stuck with me.
Oh, yeah? What did they say?
They said, I know so many words, but when I try to speak, my brain just freezes. And honestly, I think so many of you listening feel exactly the same way.
That happens to almost every learner at some point. You know the grammar, you know the vocabulary, but the words just won't come out fast enough.
Exactly. So today, we're talking about how to train your brain to speak English automatically, without that constant translating and freezing.
By the end of this episode, you'll understand exactly how automatic speech works in your brain, and you'll have real techniques to start building that automatic response yourself.
Here's a question for you while you listen. Do you ever feel like your brain freezes when you try to speak English? Tell us about it in the comments below.
And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the English Vertex Podcast. It really helps us keep making these episodes for you.
All right, let's get into how automatic speech actually works.
So let's start with the basics. Speaking automatically means your brain produces the right words and sentences without you consciously translating from your first language first. Here's a simple way to think about it. Trigger plus response plus repetition equals automatic habit. Something happens, your brain reacts, and if you repeat that reaction enough times, it becomes automatic. Let's look at some real examples. Think about how you answer, "How are you?" You probably don't translate that in your head anymore. You just say, "I'm good, thanks," instantly.
Or think about greetings, like, "Nice to meet you," or simple requests like, "Can I have the bill, please?" These phrases have already become automatic for many learners.
That's such a great point. I remember when I first learned Spanish, ordering coffee used to take me almost a full minute of thinking. Now, after enough practice, it's completely automatic.
Exactly. And that's the whole goal here. Taking that slow, effortful process and turning it into instant, natural speech.
Here's a question for you two at home. Which English phrases already feel automatic to you? Maybe greetings, maybe simple questions?
Take a second and think about that right now. Notice which parts of your English already flow easily and which parts still feel slow.
Now let's talk about what blocks automatic speech. The biggest one is translating in your head. When you think in your first language and then translate word by word, your brain simply can't move fast enough.
Another blocker is fear of mistakes. When you're scared of saying something wrong, your brain hesitates, and that hesitation breaks the automatic flow completely.
Here's a question for you. Can you notice right now whether you tend to translate in your head before speaking?
Be honest with yourself. Most learners do this at some point, and just noticing it is the first step toward fixing it.
There's also a helpful comparison here. Think about learning to drive a car. At first, you consciously think about every single movement, checking mirrors, pressing pedals, turning the wheel.
But after enough repetition, driving becomes automatic. You don't consciously think about each action anymore. Your body just does it. Speaking English works exactly the same way.
So to quickly summarize this section, automatic speech comes from repeated triggers and responses, and the biggest blockers are mental translation and fear of mistakes.
Understanding this is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about today.
Now let's build on this, because there are some really specific techniques that help train this automatic response in your brain.
Right, and one of the most powerful ones is called shadowing. This means listening to native English speech and repeating it out loud at almost the exact same time.
Let's look at a real-life situation. Imagine you're listening to a podcast, just like this one, and instead of just listening quietly, you speak along with us, copying our rhythm and pronunciation. That's shadowing in action. You're not thinking about grammar rules. You're literally training your mouth and your brain to move together naturally. Here's a dialogue demonstration. Imagine someone shadowing this exact sentence. I decided to go for a walk this morning.
They wouldn't stop and think about the grammar. They just repeat it, matching the speed and the natural flow again and again until it feels smooth.
Let's compare formal and informal ways to practice this. Formally, some teachers recommend structured shadowing sessions, 10 minutes a day with the same audio repeated several times.
Third, repeat the same short clip multiple times in a row, rather than jumping to new content constantly. Repetition is where the automatic habit actually forms.
Another powerful technique is thinking in English. This means trying to have your internal thoughts directly in English, instead of thinking in your first language and translating.
For example, instead of thinking about your day in your native language and then translating it, try describing your day directly in English, even in simple sentences.
Try writing your own example of this in the comments below. What's one thought you had today that you could try describing directly in English?
There's one more technique worth mentioning here. Chunking. Instead of learning single words, you learn whole natural phrases together as one complete unit.
For example, instead of memorizing look, forward, and to separately, you learn the entire chunk. I'm looking forward to it as one automatic block of speech.
This works so well because native speakers don't build sentences word by word in real time. They pull entire chunks from memory and connect them together smoothly.
For example, as far as I know, it depends on, and I couldn't agree more. These are all chunks you can practice as complete units, ready to use instantly.
Try picking one chunk from today's episode and saying it out loud right now as one smooth, connected phrase rather than word by word.
So to review the key points here, shadowing trains your mouth and rhythm. Thinking in English trains your brain to skip the translation step. And chunking gives you ready-made phrases you can pull out instantly.
Now let's move into something even more practical, building daily habits that make automatic speech a natural part of your life.
Exactly, because techniques only work if you actually build them into your everyday routine, consistently.
Let's talk about practical, everyday scenarios where you can practice. One great one is talking to yourself in English while doing simple tasks like cooking or getting ready in the morning.
For example, while making breakfast, you might say out loud, "First, I'm going to boil the water, then I'll make the toast." Simple, low pressure, and incredibly effective.
Here's a tip for making this feel natural rather than awkward. Start with just narrating simple physical actions, since these are the easiest sentences to build automatically.
And tone matters here too. Speak with a relaxed, playful tone, like you're genuinely chatting with a friend, not performing a formal speech.
Another great real-life practice is having imaginary conversations in your head, or even out loud if you're alone. Imagine ordering food or introducing yourself at a new job.
These imaginary rehearsals train your brain for real situations. So when the actual moment comes, your response already feels familiar and automatic.
Let's do an interactive mini practice right now. I'll give you a situation and think about how you'd respond automatically without translating. Situation: someone asks you, "What did you do this weekend?" Try answering out loud right now as quickly and naturally as you can. Don't worry about it being perfect. The goal is speed and natural flow, not flawless grammar. Great job. Encourage yourself to keep speaking out loud regularly, even when you're completely alone. It genuinely trains your brain, even without a listening partner.
You can also practice with what's called self-talk narration. While commuting or walking somewhere, describe what you're seeing around you, out loud or silently, directly in English.
For example, "That car is red. This street is really busy today." Or, "I love how the weather feels right now." Small, simple observations said naturally.
This is such a low-pressure way to practice because there's no one judging you, and you can do it literally anywhere, anytime, throughout your day. One more helpful daily habit is keeping a small notebook or a simple note on your phone with 5 or 6 phrases you want to make automatic each week. For example, this week's phrases might be, "I'm looking forward to it." That makes sense, and I completely agree. Repeat these throughout your day, whenever they naturally fit.
So, to review this whole section, talk to yourself during daily tasks, rehearse imaginary conversations, and keep a rotating list of phrases you're actively training into automatic speech.
Okay, I have to admit something. When I first started learning a new language, I used to write out entire scripts before speaking. And honestly, it made me sound so robotic and slow. Honestly, so many learners fall into that same trap. Let's go through a few common mistakes people make when trying to build automatic English.
Mistake number 1, over-relying on memorized scripts. Incorrect approach, memorizing one perfect long paragraph and reciting it exactly. Better approach, practicing flexible, short phrases you can mix and match naturally.
The reason memorized scripts fail is that real conversation is unpredictable. If someone responds differently than expected, your brain has nothing flexible to fall back on.
Mistake number 2, translating word by word before speaking. Incorrect, thinking the full sentence in your first language, then converting each word. Correct, practicing thinking directly in simple English chunks.
This mistake happens because it feels safer, but it's actually one of the biggest reasons speech feels slow and hesitant.
Mistake number 3, avoiding speaking until you feel ready. Incorrect, waiting months, thinking, "I'll speak once my grammar is perfect." Correct, speaking from day one, even with mistakes, since speaking itself builds the automatic pathway.
Waiting for perfection actually delays automatic speech because your brain never gets the repeated practice it truly needs.
Mistake number 4, practicing only by reading silently. Incorrect, only reading English articles quietly in your head. Correct, reading out loud regularly, engaging your actual speaking muscles, not just your eyes. Here's a funny, relatable example. I once spent an entire hour writing the perfect introduction for a language exchange and then completely froze when the actual conversation went in a different direction. That's so relatable, honestly. It happens to nearly everyone at some point, and it's actually a great lesson about flexibility over perfection.
Try practicing this out loud. First, say a memorized, stiff sentence. Then try the same idea in a shorter, more flexible way. Notice the difference in how natural it feels.
And remember, making these mistakes is completely normal. Every learner goes through this stage while building automatic speech.
Absolutely. The learners who improve fastest aren't the ones who never make mistakes. They're the ones who keep speaking anyway.
Here's one final mistake worth mentioning. Some learners practice in complete silence, thinking through sentences in their head without ever actually using their voice.
The problem with silent practice is that speaking is a physical skill, just like playing an instrument. Your mouth, tongue, and breathing all need real repetition, not just mental repetition.
So even 5 minutes a day of speaking out loud, even alone in your room, trains your body in a way that silent thinking simply can't.
That's such an important point. Physical repetition is honestly just as important as mental understanding when it comes to building true automatic speech.
So even if you feel a little silly talking to yourself at first, trust the process. Every fluent speaker you admire went through this exact same awkward stage. All right, let's move on to some fun interactive practice. Let's do our favorite activity, choose the correct approach. I'll read 2 options and think about which one actually builds automatic speech. Situation 1. A. Memorize one long, perfect paragraph about yourself. B. Practice 5 short, flexible phrases you can combine differently each time.
Option B is much better for building true automatic speech, since flexibility matters more than perfection.
Situation 2. A. Wait until your grammar feels perfect before speaking. B. Start speaking now, even with small mistakes.
Option B, without a doubt. Speaking early is exactly what builds the automatic pathway in your brain.
Situation 3. Only read English silently in your head. B. Read English out loud whenever possible. Option B. Reading out loud actively trains your speaking muscles, not just your understanding. Situation 4. A. Translate each sentence carefully before speaking. B. Think directly in simple English chunks.
Option B, definitely. Direct thinking in English is what removes that slow translation step completely.
Situation 5. A. Wait quietly until you understand every grammar rule perfectly. B. Start speaking now and let mistakes guide your improvement.
Option B, definitely. Perfection isn't a requirement for speaking. It's actually something that develops through speaking itself.
Great job if you got those right. Try saying the better option out loud one more time, just to reinforce it in your memory.
We can also add some variations here. Try applying situation 1 using topics from your own real life, like your job, your hobbies, or your family.
Now, here's a challenge for you. Try creating your own list of 5 short, flexible phrases you want to make automatic this week.
Write them in the comments. We would genuinely love to see what you're working on.
And remember, the goal here isn't perfect grammar every single time. It's real conversation, speed, and confidence.
Exactly. Speaking naturally and automatically matters so much more than being flawless. Keep that in mind every time you practice. Wow, what an amazing episode today. Let's do a quick summary of everything we covered.
We covered 3 main things. First, how automatic speech forms through repeated triggers and responses, and the 2 biggest blockers, translating and fear of mistakes.
Second, powerful techniques like shadowing and thinking directly in English instead of translating word by word. And third, practical daily habits like narrating your actions, rehearsing imaginary conversations, and training a rotating list of flexible phrases. You did such a great job today. And honestly, just by listening and practicing along with us, you're already training your brain toward automatic English.
Here's a reflective question for you.
What's one small habit from today you could realistically start this week?
Take a moment, think it through, and definitely share it with us in the comments. And of course, don't forget to like this video, share it with a friend who's learning English, and subscribe to the English Vertex podcast so you never miss an episode.
We put so much love into these episodes, and your support genuinely means the world to us. It's what keeps us motivated to bring you new topics every single week.
Keep practicing, keep speaking out loud, and remember that every small repetition brings you closer to speaking automatically.
Thank you all so much for spending this time with us today.
See you next time.